The thing is that no Lamine Yamal, no problem. Lamine Yamal's absence in that big game for Football Club Barcelona away at Valencia, still did not worry them. In fact, they were near perfect in that big game over there for Football Club Barcelona. Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube, video assistant referee, English Premier League have come out and they've explained why Brentford's goal against Chelsea in the last minute stood. A lot of us have said that that was an offside goal, and people probably have decided not to talk about it, but it was a clear offside. The video assistant referee have come out, and then Kieran Kegel has come out to explain why that goes to the Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. Now subscribe to the channel, subscribe and turn on notification. It's your best place for football, tactical, pre-match and post-match analysis on YouTube. Make sure say anytime that you subscribe to the channel, you do turn on notification, and then make sure say you do choose all for every club. Chelsea, Barcelona, Bayern, Real Madrid, everybody will bring you the best pre-match and post-match analysis. If you're an investor, then anytime you enjoy the analysis, you win some good money also. Today, the 7 odds did boom. So it meant that we boomed on Friday, and then on Saturday, and then on Sunday, consistently here on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. And that's exactly what we do here on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. You enjoy the analysis, and then you win some bet code as well. So tomorrow, we go again. It's Tuesday, we go again. Wednesday, we go again on Thursday. Also in the Champions League, we will go again over here on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. Of course, let me say a big thank you to the two people who have made this show a possibility. First off, yes, spare parts special dealership shop. It's your best place for spare parts. Trust me, in terms of spare parts dealing, the quality of it, the best of it, and the correct personal relationship to make sure that he delivers it to you in its best shape. Please, if you're in Accra, at Aboso Kind Post Office, call him on 059-313-8221. 059-313-8221. Call Yesumo today, he'll take very, very good care of you. Of course, if you are not in Accra and you want him to do the nationwide delivery for you, just go there. He'll get it done for you. He'll send it to wherever that you are. He'll send it to you. Of course, if you want clothes, if you want apparel, if you want to look clean, then the best place for you to go and buy your shirts, your shorts, your trousers, your slippers, wherever is at MOB Clothing. He is at Tudu, at a flower station at Tudu, Once you get there, MOB Clothing will take very good care of you. Make sure you call them if you're not in Accra, whether resale or wholesaling, on 0200-668-708, 0200-668-708. Big one. In the lead up to this one, a lot of things in Barcelona for. First, were they going to be able to go and play the game given the instability around stadium? Because Barcelona originally had believed that they were going to play in this game at a Estadio do Camp Nou, essentially because they felt that by now the Spotify Camp Nou was going to be ready. In fact, to the extent that the Barcelona City Authority had gone to do their checks and they felt that, okay, they can't give them the permit for them to start playing football at the Camp Nou. And of course, just a couple of days ago, at music concerts also at the Stadio de Luis Companys near Fredo de Montjuic. So what that means also that the backup plan for Football Club Barcelona, which is the Montjuic also, they will not be able to go and play football there. So obviously, Barca were in real trouble to the extent that they had to go and play for the very first time in the Spanish La Liga at the Estadio de Johan Cruyff. Somewhere among ball and some friendly matches be training games be on Johan Cruyff, and it's a small stadium, just 6,000 capacity, owned by the Football Club Barcelona. So it wasn't a place where ideally Barcelona for no go and play their football, but they had to go and play that football at the Estadio de Johan Cruyff. A lot of issues came up. Some of the socials felt say, okay, I didn't think a game in a 6,000 seater capacity when we could have planned better to do other things. That also met the untimely list of injuries. In fact, Lamine Yamal injury in front of sport, they went there and they said, Barcelona for especially Hansi Flick blames Luis de la Fuente, of course, the Spanish La Roja manager, saying that the medical team or the Spanish national team knew about the discomfort of in the pubic area of our Brentford and Lamine Yamal, but they still subjected him to what we call the analgesics and also the painkillers for Brentford and Lamine Yamal to play for the Spanish national team. pain meds nowhere off. He began to feel the pain again. So he couldn't train in Barcelona on Friday, couldn't train on Saturday, and it meant that obviously the game on Sunday against Valencia, he wasn't going to play. And mind you, that Valencia game, was a very important game because this season, Spanish La Liga table, so Real Madrid are unbeaten. In fact, and yesterday they are just unbeaten. They have a perfect record. They have a perfect record, something that football club Barcelona do not have. So how are Barcelona going to go into this one, knowing that football club Real Madrid had a perfect record, but they do not have a perfect record, and they were going into a game, a rejuvenated Valencia side with the likes of Danjuma beginning to find their good feet and scoring boots early on in the season. How were they going to go into that one when they didn't have their biggest marksman in a Brentford friend, Lewandowski? Last season, Barca forced 100+ goals in all competitions. Most and a chunk of those goals were scored by Lamine Yamal, Robert Lewandowski, and Rafinha. None of them was available to start inside game. Rafinha, because of disciplinary issues, according to reports in Spain, he didn't go on time for training, any pre-match conversations. And of course, it meant that he wasn't going to be able to start early in some match. And of course, Robert Lewandowski was now returning from injury, and that means that he couldn't start the game. Of course, that of Lamine Yamal also means that your friend Lamine Yamal also wasn't going to be able to go on and then go and start inside game. It was a big game. It was a huge game. Also because Valencia, for the record in recent times, have not been so good, and they would have wanted to do better. Madrid for and 4 out of 4. Barcelona, it was going to be before this game, 2 wins, 1 draw, and then also, of course, winning this one. So how were Barca going to go into this game and make sure, say, all of the issues that came in and around them, they were going to sort it out, and then of course they're going to go into a very good place where they'll be able to be very successful in terms of getting the results in the absence of players. Apparently, friend Frankie de Jong was absent. What it meant that the pivots, Elbas and Fiifi-Manfred had to change. They had to move from Abrantia, friend Frankie de Jong and Pablo Gavi, from Frankie de Jong and Pedri Gonzalez to Abrantia, friend Pedri Gonzalez and Marc Casado. That wasn't bad because we've seen several times at Barca and won a game where there is the use of Abrantia friend Pedri and Abrantia friend Marc Casado in the middle of the park. They've done very well in that regard. But there was also the absence of Abrantia, your friend Gavi from the team, Frankie de Jong from the team. And it meant that the front three was going to change. That meant that the young Danish attacker, Abrantia friend Rooney Bargi, had his first start for Football Club Barcelona. And I think that was very, very interesting in that one. How are Barca going to sort out? Of course, starting lineup nearby, Abrantia, your friend, Marcus Rashford did start in the game. He was right there in the mix. It was a starting lineup of Pau Kubasi, Eric Garcia. Again, I've said it several times. Most of the times, one of the things that Hansi Dieter Flick have realized in most of the games that they've played in recently, especially in the last one against Rayo Vallecano, was that in build-up, Abrantia friend Pau Kubasi was targeted. Pau Kubasi, more of a right-sided centre-back. Eric Garcia fits rather as a left-sided centre-back because Eric Garcia is more ambipedal. He can play on the left, he can play on the right. So he fits in that area if you play him both on the right or on the left in terms of what you want to get from him. But of course, in almost all the games where Hansi Dieter Flick have had to pair Christensen and Pau Kubasi, it means that he has to shift Abrantia friend Pau Kubasi to the left-hand side because Christensen is also right-footed. So he is better also suited at the right-hand side. Same for Abrantia, even a friend Ronald Araujo. It was a perfect pair with Abrantia friend Inigo Martinez because Inigo Martinez was more a left-sided centre-back. And the good thing is that if you look at Obi to say Eric Garcia, his strong foot pan, right foot, and he's right-footed player and prefers to use the right-footed often. But most of the times also, you can see his Abrantia friend Eric Garcia has the strength of playing as an ambipedal player. Utimibo on the right-hand side, Utimibo on the left-hand side. And he's more comfortable to play on the left-hand side than a lot of the players now. Hansi Dieter Flick decided to switch Abrantia friend Pau Kubasi to the right-hand side, push Eric Garcia to the left-hand channel as a centre-back. Gerardo Martin came in, of course, also with the absence of Abrantia friend Alejandro Balde, the Jules Koundé. Also, and in fact, the whole Barca team was new. But this is a Barca team that played together for a very long time. A squad that had been been together. A core of this team had been together from last season, so it wasn't so much of new relationship that have been built. This is a team that the core were there. Of course, in FIFA, Marc Casado and Pedri, then Fermine Lopez was right ahead of them. On the left-hand side, amongst that Brentford friend Marcus Rashford came through to it, and then Ferran Torres led the lines with a Brentford friend Rooney Baggy on the right-hand side. It was a flat 4-3-3 with a Brentford friend Juan Garcia in post. A very, very huge one. See, one of the things I've said about Barcelona, and they say there always isn't a lack of effort. Almost every time we are Barcelona or set up to play games, there is always isn't a lack of effort. Every time they are solid. Every time they deliver. Every time they play good football. And then even when things are not going on well, they tend to force the issue. And that's one of the strengths of Hansi Flick's Barcelona side. We've spoken about the cognitive and the emotional strength of Hansi Flick and Mantian. But it comes down to the ability to constantly probe, constantly find solutions to get a job done over there. And that is something that they've done brilliantly well throughout the season. In fact, when the game started, they were struggling a little bit to break down Valencia for them, because obviously Valencia wanted to be more aggressive. They wanted to find the opening. And they were constantly in the mid-block 4-4-2 without the ball. In fact, Valencia for them starts back in a back five to sort of cover the full length of the pitch and then isolates the two wingers in Marcus Rashford and Rooney Baggy to 1v1 duels from out wide. And that is something that they kept on doing. Now, what Barca did in this game was to stay away from using the strength of the outside, because this isn't a game with Rafinha. This isn't a game with Lamine Yamal. What they, however, did was that it was the one-touch combination passes to open up them. Now, Oshesa, Fermine Lopez goal now, it was a goal that essentially was a pass from deep from a Brentford friend Eric Pau Kobasi, who then found a Brentford friend Ferran Torres, because he had dropped deep. And that was also a very, very good game plan from Hansi Flick to try and overload centrally, using the deep dropping or the ability to drop centrally from a Brentford friend Ferran Torres. Was very, very interesting. Constantly, Ferran dropped into the middle of the park to come and receive the ball. And once he did, in this case, in the lead up to Fermine Lopez goal, it was a simple one-touch pass into the path of Fermine Lopez, who was in the left half space. And that's one thing. Immediately, Ferran Torres dropped into the central areas. He pushed Fermine Lopez into the left half space for him to wait for those balls. It wasn't an extra touch, an extra control. No, it was just one straight pass from the defense, one simple ball through from the feet of a Brentford friend Ferran Torres, and he found a Brentford friend Fermine Lopez, who then received the ball, first touch onto the goal, and then slotted it in. See, the technical ability of that Catalan boy, that solid Catalan and Dolithia born Fermine Lopez is such a huge advantage to Football Club Barcelona. And you see, that goal put them in a huge pedestal where they didn't have to chase the game. Mind you, Barca have chased the game in recent times. This time they didn't have to chase because, one, you don't have the personalities to chase the game, in attack. And also, it's important that when you are down in personnel-wise, you have a foothold of the game from the get-go, and then make sure that you grow into it and then get a success that you wanted to get on from there. See, by halftime, everybody was talking about the quality again of our brand here, your friend Pedri Gonzalez. Everybody knows the quality of Pedri Gonzalez. He essentially pulled the string centrally, left, right, and Barca are going away to go and play against Newcastle United. Maka, the last time, said it is really going to be a different game than what everybody knows. It's not going to be the regular Barcelona games that they play. Newcastle are going to make the game like a game that they know how to play. They won't make it like a game that Barcelona will know how to play. They'll make it a game that they know how to play. And it was important for Barca to get a win here and build momentum from there, and then go away to go and play against Newcastle, and of course make sure that they get a job done. Excellent goals across the game in that regard over there. Rafinha came off the bench, was very instrumental, of course. Got a job done in that regard as well. If you go into a game like this and you win by 6-0, then that definitely is very, very important in that regard. That definitely shows how much of a quality team that you are. 6-0. It means that they are now unbeaten in La Liga in the last 11 games head-to-head against Valencia. For anytime a Barca for they get a job done. Of course, in the second half, that is where you got the boys coming in to come and get a job done. Rafinha came on to come and get a job done, to finish up the goal over there for themselves and solidly making sure that at the end of the day, they get a job done. That was a solid display from Football Club Barcelona. I mean, nothing to show for from Valencia for one goal from Fermine Lopez also, in the 29th minute. Very, very important goal from our Brentford friend, Fermine Lopez. Of course, Rafinha came on in the 46th minute when they took off Ronnie Bargain and, of course, switched our Brentford friend, Marcus Rashford to the right-hand side. And that means that even in the 53rd minute, Rafinha now began to immerse himself in the game, really began to pull the strings on the wide areas, got a goal to make it 2-0. Fermine Lopez made it 3-0. Of course, second goal from then. You see that second goal again from Fermine Lopez being set up by Brentford friend Marc Casado. Anybody that watched that game could tell you the quality of our Brentford friend Fermine Lopez. And you can understand why in the summer, teams be to say Chelsea more were very much interested in our Brentford friend Fermine Lopez. Of course, later on, Dani Olmo came on. Robert Lewandowski came to get in a brace on him to open up scoring. I mean, Lewandowski came off from the bench to come and score 2. Marcus Rashford was in the game throughout. He didn't get a single goal. Hey, Charlie. Well, I mean, I don't think Marcus Rashford will be worried about that. He had good game time. He played good football. I'm sure that essentially he would have won. Essentially, being in a game like this was all that Marcus Rashford would have wanted, not particularly just by force getting a goal, but then being involved in a game like this and then playing constantly for Football Club Barcelona, obviously, was going to be very important for Football Club Barcelona. 6-0, man of the match to Fermine Lopez, obviously. And of course, you give a lot of credit to Rafinha for his impact in the second half. But then, even before he came on, Barca were in cruise control. They were in total control of the match. There was nothing to worry about for them, and they have sorted out everything for themselves. Something that is very, very interesting for Football Club Barcelona. Of course, one of the good things that happened in this game was for Marc Bernal to come on and then get an assist. I mean, for a player to have been injured for a very long time, coming on into a game like this to come and play and get an assist for your club is really, really interesting. And I think that that's a very good one for our Brentford friend Marc Bernal. In the 88th minute, Pedri Gonzalez was taken off and a Marc Bernal by. Marc Bernal by, he came to do the job. Easy peasy, easy peasy, simple. And yeah, Jumani now, Edema Tima, your friend Football Club Barcelona. It was such a solid job done by Barcelona for them to make sure everything was done in the right way. That's a very, very good one for Football Club Barcelona in that regard. And what it means is that back on the Spanish La Liga table, Barca are right there with Madrid. And this week there's going to be Champions League. Barca are going to go away to Newcastle United at the 10th side. Barca with 10 points, Madrid with 12 points. Just open up the conversation. Our Spanish La Liga and Madrid for now unbeaten. Barca are also unbeaten in all of those conversations. No, in that regard, obviously. And now Chelsea played against Brentford. In fact, in the dying embers of the game, Moises Caicedo had scored a thunderbolt. And for a lot of Chelsea fans had felt that, okay, that meant that Chelsea are probably going to win the game in that regard until 90 plus 3 minutes. And our Brentford for a throw in. And I've said it several times that throw-ins and set pieces were probably going to have a huge impact on the game because of who Keith Andrews is and because of who Bernardo Cueva is in the game. And you could tell, Brentford foreign defended set pieces very well, and they also effected set pieces very well. It was a throw-in from a Brentford friend Shadi from the left-hand side of Chelsea goal area, and then they threw in the ball. The on-field decision goal Estande. In fact, right after the goal go inside, VAR reviewed the goal. They reviewed the footage, and referee said, "Oh, there was nothing there. It's a goal, so the goal should stand." After the game, when people began to analyze the footage, especially from Chelsea former assistant manager Jody Morris, they realized that now a Brentford friend Dango Ouattara was in an offside position. That's exactly what Jody Morris told. And people began to look at it, and people have asked questions. In fact, a lot of people have said because Chelsea benefited from somewhat of a VAR advantage against Fulham, the VAR team, didn't want to give that advantage to Chelsea Football Club, and it put them in a very, very precarious situation in that regard. And the on-field decision was that there was no offside occurred. Officials deemed no clear impact. I'm going to say Dango Ouattara 29 now Bobono before Fabio Carvalho scored. James Bell studied it, but they decided the referee call should stand because it was subjective. And again, I think that is where the issue is, because nobody really can define what a clear and obvious foul is. And these things, if you don't take care, it comes down to semantics. Because what is interfere with play? Interfere with play, interesting. Because nipa never be baby. That's the one carbon interference. And what if there are even sometimes where you see okay, original goalkeeper in the eye line or John? What if a trainer in the last minute before the ball comes? Is that interference? Now the VAR referee, which is James Bell, who was on its essay, it was subjective. The definition of interfering with play with Dango Ouattara Bono, Tone, Nina Bono, he said that it was subjective. So you can't go on and then give, disallow the goal in that regard when you are not sure. And again, Sobeka, after the game against Fulham, Howard Webb, who is the referee's chief, kept on saying, if something is not clear-cut, obvious error, they shouldn't involve people in, and VAR should not come and re-referee the game. VAR, a very referee game, and of course, they didn't consider it as a clear and obvious error. The PGMOL chief, Howard Webb, insisting on high threshold, because for something to clear as a clear and obvious foul, obvious error, the threshold is now very high. And then you be and your best friend has a clear, obvious foul, error. VAR will need to wait to see if incident is included in Webb's next match. Officials mic'd up episode to get the view on whether it was right or wrong. Of course, Premier League for the summer here mic'd up, where over the weekend they come and discuss how refereeing decisions have gone and what should have done better, what could have done. Chelsea set piece coach Bernardo Cueva was among those adamants that Ouattara interfered. Of course, because I said when the game was going on, just when they scored a goal, Chelsea for set piece coach Eba Bekan said Ouattara was in an offside position and he interfered with play. And of course, if interfered with play there, then obviously that is exactly what it is. And somebody said a player in an offside position at the moment the ball is played or touched by a teammate is only penalized on becoming involved in active play. Interfering with play by playing or touching a ball passed onto the next teammates. Interfering with play with an opponent by preventing an opponent from playing or being able to play the ball by clearly obstructing the opponent's line of vision. Challenge an opponent for the ball. Clearly attempting to play a ball which is close when its action impacts on an opponent, or making an obvious action that clearly impacts on the ability of the opponent to play the ball. Somebody brought up this definition of interfering with play when it comes to such a situation. But of course, that's exactly what's happened. I don't think anything will happen Chelsea for it happens. For me, I think that sometimes football is like that. You win some and then you lose some. It's not every time in Abeco games, you are going to be winning things, and a lot of course are going to go your way. The only thing is that when it goes against Chelsea, people hardly speak. When it goes in favor of Chelsea, that's where people find their voices and talk a lot of the times. And that's why most of the time Chelsea fans talk a lot of the issues. We'll see how things are going to go on. And from there, in that regard, of course, we'll have all the conversation on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. What it means is that when you go on to the English Premier League table, and then you look at what has gone on, Charlie, now it is clear. What we have after match day two, everything is clear. Everything is clear-cut when it comes to match day 2. Liverpool are on top, unbeaten in 4 games with 12 points. I think, Real Madrid in Europe, they are those with those number of points all throughout Europe as it stands now. If you go there, there is also Arsenal Football Club, who are drawn just lost 1 and then won the rest of the 3. Same for Tottenham Hotspur. Any team, my friend, Bournemouth. Chelsea are 5th in that regard. In terms of the games now on my ball. And of course, I think that's an interesting set of games. Now that the Champions is going to come on to Bayern Munich for Chelsea Football Club in the next coming days. We'll wrap up what I say on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. The weekend, we'll give it to you here on the Sunday night. Thank you very much every time for choosing us always on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. Thank you for being your best place for football analysis. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you, God willing, tomorrow. Until then, like we always do, do take care. Wait for tomorrow. Let us go and cook some more quotes and then win some good money. Of course, make sure you do what we will not do over here on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. Until then, like Fermine Lopez, adios.